Hey there, I'm Marty Sakata, host of Brazilian Alpha. You might know me from the Ivy Family Office Network, almost 3 decades of family office and big shots, collaborating on alternative investments, strategy, and good causes. That's the fuel for this podcast. Why Resilient Alpha? Simple. Why do some funds and managers crush it and others crash? We're cracking that code, redefining alpha, and bringing top brains to unpack asset classes and hot alpha ideas. We're going full throttle. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to today's episode, where we're diving into the cutting edge intersection of artificial intelligence, biotech, and venture capital with an extraordinary guest, Elizabeth Cho-Fertikh. Elizabeth is the founder of Meta Ventures, a venture fund that redefines how we invest in the future of medicine. With a career spanning finance, entrepreneurship, and innovation, she's harnessed her expertise to build a platform that uses AI to pinpoint the most promising molecules for groundbreaking therapies. If you've ever wondered how technology can accelerate life-saving discoveries, you're in for a treat. We'll discuss how Elizabeth and her team leverage AI to sift through the vast world of molecular possibilities, identifying winners that could transform lives and deliver returns. Then, a 15-minute lightning round to get her quick takes on the biotech landscape and beyond, from the nuts and bolts of their processes to the big picture vision for the future. We're exploring how Meta Ventures is betting on science and smarts to reshape the industry. So let's get started. Elizabeth, great to have you here. Hi, I'm Marty Sakata. Welcome to Resilient Alpha, where we look at the best and most interesting investments and trends in investments. So today we're in beautiful New York City, where it's a little bit rainy. And today our guest is Elizabeth Cho-Fertikh. Elizabeth is the founder of Meta Ventures, a healthcare VC that's redefining how we invest in the future of medicine. With a 30-year career spanning drug development research, investing in entrepreneurship, and a deep passion for innovation, she's harnessed her expertise to develop a biotech funding vehicle with her VC team members that uses an independently validated AI platform that can pinpoint the most promising molecules predicted to have desirable profiles to back as investors, to hopefully deliver groundbreaking therapies to patients. If you've ever wondered how technology can accelerate life-saving discoveries, you're in for a treat. In this 45-minute session, we'll unpack Meta Ventures' unique approach over 2 acts. First, a 30-minute deep dive into how Elizabeth and her team leverage AI to sift through the vast world of molecular possibilities, identifying winners that could transform lives and deliver returns. Then, a 15-minute lightning round to get her quick takes on the biotech landscape and beyond. From the nuts and bolts of their process to the big picture vision for the future, we're exploring how Meta Ventures is betting on science and smarts to reshape the industry. So let's get started. Elizabeth, great to have you here.
Thank you, Marty.
Can you start by telling us a bit about your journey? How did you get from your early career to founding Meta Ventures and focusing on AI in the biotech space?
Sure, happy to. So I started out as a scientist, doctoral level in cancer therapeutics, and I just realized at some point that I'm not a lab person, for the rest of my life, but I therefore went into regulatory to understand exactly how drugs get into FDA and get clearance. So I wanted to explore another functionality. And I got into investing actually purely accidentally. A friend of mine asked me to come to an angel investor meeting. They were going to discuss a couple therapeutics company. And so she said, we need your technical expertise. I said, sure. I didn't know one thing from another. So I did go, and I found it very fascinating to hear the business sides of things. That was foreign to me. So I went yet again, and I really loved it. And then I started investing myself. And at some point, I decided, I have a lot of physicians that I know because my husband had been one also, and I'm a scientist. I decided maybe we take some management over the deal flow because we know as customers what is needed. So I wanted to turn that around and have a different intake group look at things. So I started Met Angels in 2019, and that burgeoned into about 50 members. And then we partnered with Techos Ventures out in Southern California.
Wow.
And all in all, that gave exposure to 400 investors. So that has been a really great partnership. And we raised a fund one. It's now fully deployed. And then we decided, maybe we could go even bigger. And as a result, we started Meta Ventures.
Great. So just to give some more background, you're based where exactly?
So we're based in Washington, D.C. That's where I and another managing partner, Carolyn Campbell, is. And then our other partners are in other hubs, biotech focused hubs like Boston, Palo Alto, and another one down in Miami as well, one of
Oh,
our
wow.
general partners.
And so the Angel Network is in DC also, and then you partnered with other groups, and so you share deal flow?
Something like that. Our investors, Meta Angels investors, are actually nationwide because it's mostly virtual, although we do on-sites on occasion. And then as for our partners, they go around scouting deals. And so, yes, we exchange deal flow with Tech Coast. It's been very, very fruitful.
We know Tech Coast Angels really well. There's fantastic deal flow in Southern California. People don't
Absolutely.
really understand how great San Diego is, for
San
example,
Diego,
for healthcare
absolutely.
research and application, and that they're, unlike Silicon Valley, it's on a mature area where there's all kinds of venture capital there to deploy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that proximity that also helps us.
Great, great. So you created a fund. What inspired you to create this fund and then leverage AI to identify promising molecules? I mean, how does this approach differ from traditional venture investing?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking that. Coming from a therapeutics background myself, and also another managing partner, Thomas Phillipson, he's a health economist, but he's been in the pharma space too for a good while. We know how hard it is and how long it takes for a biotech, any drug, to reach the market. And the traditional approach is for a startup in that therapeutic area to go from VC to VC, as well as potentially augment what they need through funding. Non-dilutive grant type funding.
Sure.
It's a slog. Everyone knows it's a slog. On top of that, it takes drug discovery so long to become fruitful. So we decided to develop a new funding vehicle that incorporates AI. There's a company, we're under NDA, so we can't, divulge the name, but they have validated that through a third party, and that AI has almost 85% predictability success rate, which is far more better. I hate to say this because I'm a scientist. It's far better than what humans can predict. So we use that to determine which companies to invest in.
Sure. Just two quick follow-ups. So Thomas Phillipson, I mean, he's just not a guy, right? I mean, he's a pretty well-known guy. I mean,
absolutely.
Can you maybe give some more background to what he's done? I mean, I think he's worked in some administrations, et cetera.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very pleased to talk more about Thomas. He is a health economist by training, professor emeritus at University of Chicago.
Wow.
For economics, one of the premier places
Great
to do
school.
economics. Absolutely. He had his own healthcare analytics company that serviced the top 50 pharmas, and it was eventually sold to Blackstone, who is a majority owner now.
Wow.
So he has the business capability, and he has great policy background too. He was chief economist at the FDA, the CMS, and he also served as the acting chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors.
That sounds highly qualified. Wow.
Very qualified.
Yeah.
So glad to have him.
And you talked about getting non-dilutive equity. Like, what kind of sources are out there for non-dilutive equity? I mean, you get NIH, I guess, and other areas, and foundations.
Yeah, foundations, NIH, and they're in a bit of a turmoil right now because of the budget, indirect cuts to their indirect budgets. That covers a lot of overhead at these great big institutions. So I think even more than ever, biotech's going to look to diluted funding sources like VCs. I
Mhm.
think they're going to come to us even more.
There's going to be more creative financing, I imagine.
I think so.
Right. And you guys have some creative financing. We'll get into that later.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, you work with Tech Coast Angels. San Diego is like a hotbed of device and shared information, shared data. Does your VC invest solely in biotech opportunities? Do you do other things besides biotech?
Yes, we do. There are three areas total that we invest in: therapeutics, medical devices, and digital health. They all tend to feed into each other, and we have a history of investing in those three areas too.
Great, great. So let's go back. So it's interesting, we've done a lot of work with EveryCure, which is a nonprofit here in New York and Philadelphia, and they were given about $110 million in grant money to build out an AI model for using off-patent drugs, for redeploying off-patent drugs for other uses. Talk about how you use AI in biotech deals. Sounds like the approach is pretty unique. Can you talk about it and how you use it to select molecules?
Sure. The process goes like this. Suppose a biotech company approaches us, and this is now limited to small molecules. That's where AI has been validated. Biologics are a lot more complex. And while that field is growing and emerging, we're not quite there yet as far as AI predictability. So let's say, going back, a biotech company comes to us, they have a small molecule, and this gets into explaining a bit more about our funding mechanism for therapeutic deals. We partnered with an insurer, Lloyd's of London, which has been around for hundreds of years, and a lending element. Okay, stick with me here. A biotech company comes, they have a small molecule. Lloyd's of London will deploy it out to this AI company that we partnered with as well. They will run it through their algorithm to determine whether a molecule works, is likely to work rather. So that is part of Lloyd's underwriting to cover the insurance element. They also look at the protocol to make sure that the endpoints make sense. So let's say there's a thumbs up for that company. Lloyd's also gives, therefore, a thumbs up. Okay. Then the lenders come in with their non-dilutive financing. Okay. It's a debt. This is secured debt. They come in and cover the entire trial cost. Lloyd's will insure the entire trial cost. We, Meta, with first right of refusal, may cover the premium to Lloyd's. Just like you have auto insurance or home insurance, every month you pay a premium.
Right.
So we'll give the premium money to the company who pays Lloyd's. In exchange, we, VCs, get equity in the company. Let's say the outcome is this. Let's say the molecule doesn't work. The beauty is then that Lloyd's will pay back the lenders. The company's not lying there awake in the middle of the night, the CEO wondering, how am I going to pay back? It's secured debt. They're off the hook. But if it succeeds, valuation goes up, they can raise more money. And
so AI is almost like a risk management part of the underwriting.
That's a great way of putting it.
Okay.
Exactly, Martin.
And then the capital stack looks like what? So you put in $1 million, and with your partners, maybe a couple other million, and then the trials cost tens of millions. And so there's a loan that comes to you via Lloyd's.
It
or
comes
from
via
other
the lenders.
And who are these lenders that you speak to? Just
for the time being, we can't say too much, but they are, big.
Like institutions, hedge funds.
Oh yes, absolutely. They are at that level, as well as sovereign wealth funds.
Wow.
It's big. We're trying to raise $1 billion for that. And
What's the coupon on a loan like that? Like what kind of interest rate are you paying on that?
they're still figuring that out, but it could be a couple points above, standard. So yeah.
But if you get a home run product, it pays for itself, obviously, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, the lenders can convert their loan into equity in the next round.
So it's convertible debt.
It's convertible.
Wow.
Can be.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic. Wow.
Very flexible.
So we've had many healthcare, probably hundreds of healthcare speakers in our group in the past, and I know that people like Lindsay Rosenwald have gone out there and they find molecules all around the world, and then they put teams together to investigate a molecule, et cetera. So why is the focus on on the molecule specifically? What makes them such a critical piece of the puzzle when it comes to biotech innovation?
It's absolutely central. If the molecule works, everyone's happy. If it doesn't, it's gone. So it's everything. Everything pivots around that molecule working, right?
Right. So in the healthcare decision matrix for family offices or other institutional investors, there's always that binary aspect, which is what you're talking about. It works or it doesn't work, right? And
Absolutely.
so that kind of reduces the risk on that binary decision making.
That's what we're aiming for, because if it doesn't work, it's not like the company goes bankrupt. Lloyd's will have paid back the lenders the full trial costs and whatever interest. The company lives to see another day. And instead of it going from, let's say, valuations 100 to 0, right, as it would be otherwise for traditional VC funding mechanisms, it might be 0 minus the cost of the premium. That's it. And they can live to see another day, because we will only invest if we see that their balance sheets have a bit more cushion.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So it's really interesting. I mean, we're seeing AI kind of become dominant in a lot of areas. There's a guy named Tom Farb that has rolled out AI for lab equipment, for example, and reduced human error greatly. So what's the advantage? I mean, you said 85% likelihood. Where does that number come from, and what's that advantage over human, decision making?
Right. Absolutely. The company, who happens to be in San Diego too, the company had their AI platform trained on tons of molecules, and it's possible to have tons because there's a long, rich history around small molecules. They validated it externally through a third party, and those evaluators were blinded to the molecules that they fed through. And I think they validated it with about 10,000. Hence, that's how the 85% success came from. The going rate in terms of humans determining success or not, predicting rather, for phase 1, it's about 50%. Remember, 85 for the AI. Humans is about 50, but phase 2, it really drops, because that's when you figure out whether something will work or not, efficacy.
So
And
does
that
the
goes-
AI
Mhm.
predict all along? Does it predict at phase 1, phase 2?
Yes.
So you after it passed phase 1, you feed in the new data to it, and it makes another prediction. Is that how it works?
No, it already has data for itself, the molecule, based on safety, which is phase 1, and efficacy. We have a long, rich history and deep history behind small molecules. So we know whether or not it may work in phase 2 at the outset, which is wonderful.
And this is based off of like databases that are widely available, et cetera.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot to do with, national databases, NIH will have them. Lots of rich history through PubMed, the literature for where scientists go. Yeah.
Okay.
So great. Yeah. We're pretty confident.
So let me ask you a question. So how do you measure success when you select the molecules? Like, how do you say AI was right or AI was not as good as we expected it to be? Is there a benchmark that you use?
We will know after each of the phases of clinical trial. Those are the metrics. That's what's always been the metric. Phase 1, the safety level is tolerable or even excellent. That's the benchmark. That enables FDA to give us the green light to proceed to the next phase. And in phase 2, which is, it's a smaller population than phase 3. Phase 2 and 3 determine efficacy. So it's efficacy, and we determine specific endpoints that a trial should meet. For instance, it actually slows down. I'm going to use the example of cancer. It slows down tumor growth, or it just shrinks the tumor. It prevents it from metastasizing. You compare it to a control group. So those are the metrics.
Great things.
Well
Yeah, great.
defined.
Absolutely. So what about the application to medical devices or digital health? I mean, is there some way AI measures that?
We ourselves don't have that. In terms of, I don't know of any company who's done medical devices or digital. There's because we just don't have a history around them. Yeah, the AI is for the most part been very busy in the therapeutic space.
So we've been looking at these molecules for tens, dozens of years, and I imagine all these devices are new. There wasn't mobile phones until 10 or 20 years,
Exactly.
smartphones until 10 or
Right.
20 years ago. So how could you know
No,
what
that's
a
right.
device is going to measure?
You got it, Marty.
Right. You go to San Diego and everybody's got something attached to their body as they go jogging, right? So
Yeah, we just don't have that history yet. One day.
can you talk a little bit about the real world impact? Can you share an example of med device or therapeutic that you've invested in that you're proud of?
Oh God, so many. Not to discount the other companies I've invested in, but one that's really hopefully making a mark is a cancer vaccine company. We didn't think vaccines could ever work. They went through a slump for a long time. And however, there has been a resurgence. And this one company that we invested in has entered phase 2B, which is already the time point when M&A talks or IPO, and they in fact are in diligence with 3 of the major pharmas, household names.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What sort of vaccine? What sort of cancer is it targeting?
They have targeted glioblastoma, which is a brain
Wow.
cancer. However, they have other pipelines looking at blood cancers and others. Oh, sorry about that. All right, I got it. So
Nope, you don't.
So the first indication that they're testing out is glioblastoma, very aggressive brain cancer. And sadly to say, my husband did pass away from it. So this company means even more. But from a investment perspective, they are just marching right along, and it's a great story. And they have already shown efficacy, prolonging life. And they also won, they're among the finalists in therapeutic vaccines determined by the World Vaccine Congress. That is one of the leading institutions in this area. And our company is right up there with the Goliaths, Merck, Moderna,
Wow.
BioNTech.
Is a likely IPO candidate or an acquisition candidate?
They're open to both, but they've got 3 pharmas deep in diligence. So I do think it's more of an M&A. And wouldn't we love to see an M&A?
You know, it's interesting when we talk about like cancer treatments and things like that. It's really interesting because there's actually like a mathematical equation I hate to say about if you can prolong life longer when you have a certain type of illness, once it allows you to be prolonged to hopefully when a cure is found, right? And that's part of the game and the way you rationalize the treatment, right? Is that prolonged life, better treatment will come along. Is that about right?
100%. I mean, the war on cancer began in the 70s when Nixon declared that as a mission, right? And we've been at it. It is tough, a disease to overcome. So really what we hope to achieve in the field is to make it a chronic disease, have these different modalities, vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, you name it, prolong life. So you just live with it as a chronic disease.
Absolutely.
That already would be a beautiful achievement.
Right. So, so what are some of the biggest challenges you face? Right? I mean, I think that healthcare faces some headwinds right now, but when you combine AI and biotech and venture capital, it's like a soup, right? Or is it a stew? But anyway, what are the challenges that you see when you're, working on this and thinking about the capabilities, et cetera?
Challenges, actually, I'm more encouraged by the AI being able to help us and employing it within a VC space. I don't know that many VCs are using AI as part of their risk management. So I'm actually very proud of that. I don't see it as a challenge, but a welcome. As far as if there are challenges, it's about funding. And being able to find enough funding for these very promising startups. With some of these cuts to the government funding that they've always relied on, I would say there are going to be some headwinds in the next few years, but maybe foundations will step up to help them out because they are not governed by these government policies. So I would say funding is always the issue.
Sure, sure. As a VC firm, do you guys tend to be the first money in? Are you at like seed stage? Are you the deal sponsor? Do you underwrite the deal? Do you have co-investors? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We would absolutely lead, and we've got a great team of to do so. We have a lot of advisors. We are still physician and scientist founded, and we have great many in our network to do the technical diligence and finance people, IT, regulatory. Healthcare is very regulated, as you may know. So we have done this already for the past 6 years. We've had 0 companies shut down amazingly. So we know how to diligence them properly, deeply. So I'm confident that way. Yeah.
And how do you syndicate your deals? Like I imagine from working with Tech Coast Angels, you have bi-coastal capabilities from your group in Florida. You can work with the
Oh
South.
yeah, we've
how do you syndicate these deals, and how receptive are other VCs to working with you or family offices? Coming as co-investors.
100%. It is all about the networks that we've cultivated. It's not just me, but my other partners. They're deep into their ecosystems in the Boston area, Palo Alto, and I have nurtured a great many angel level investors as well as VCs. And I'm part of this IvyFON network, right?
There you go.
I'm
right.
part of your family. So family offices will be sure to broadcast to give people opportunities to invest in the best and the brightest. And, we always have a pretty comprehensive diligence report, and that can be shared too.
You know what's really interesting when I met you is that we had already been working with EveryCure for about a year, and EveryCure scores all of these therapeutics that they work with, right? And I was talking to them. I said, I bet you that probably in the next 5 years, everything will have to be scored in order to get investment. What are your thoughts? What do you think the future is in terms of meta ventures, AI, biotech investing? Like, how much more rigorous it will become?
I think AI is just going to enable us even more to get even more rigorous. The more we feed it and train that data set, and it will continue to be trained. It can never be static, right? So as long as AI is bolstered with the training and validation, I think it's only going to enable us to become more rigorous, but to do so faster.
Yep.
And that way, we potentially can get drugs out to the market faster. I think AI is also being employed outside of the VC sphere, but in clinical trial enrollment, because you want to pick the right patients with the right profiles, so we can determine whether or not they will be responsive. Yeah, so their AI is being used more and more across the life cycle of biotech R&D, and I think it's only going to facilitate faster timelines to market, and the pipeline is going to be, rather than narrowed like a needle, I think it should broaden wider.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So we're going to take a break for about 1 minute.
Okay.
And then we're going to get back to our lightning round.
Very well.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. So now we have a lightning round, and we're going to talk about. You have about 90 seconds to answer our questions, and you can be much shorter than 90 seconds. So tell me, what are your favorite AI tools or algorithms that you've used at Meta Ventures?
Our own, the one that I had spoken about, the ability to, determine whether a small molecule will succeed or not. That is, to me, very cool.
Great. A molecule you hope to invest in?
Oh, goodness. There are so many unmet needs, but if one can work on the brain, that would be amazing. Whether it's for, a cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, we could do even better. because the brain is this secret vault, and we need ways to access it. And that's been the biggest bottleneck for the field. So I hope that.
I mean, there's so many treatments coming out. Biggest misconception about AI in biotech.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Unless you get into it, you may just read things on ChatGPT or Google. If you really take a look at it and study it, you'll realize that it's no longer just an algorithm in certain cases. It really should be a tool because it's been very well trained, very well validated. It is not just an algorithm that maybe sort of kind of works, sort of kind of cool. No, there are AI tools that are ready for prime time. That's what I would say.
I guess we have like large language models, and then we have small language models, which are just very specific, applied to things like healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So, what's the hardest lesson that you've learned? I know you've been incredibly successful, but learned in venture investing.
I think, you know, it's a long and lonely road for startups for sure. And I think the lesson I've learned is it's not so much of failure. It's when companies don't make their milestones. Let's say they didn't get through FDA, everyone's bummed out. So I think the lesson learned is to accept there will be some failures, but then we should pour all our efforts into helping that company. They need our help even more than ever.
Great. Pivoting to other investment sector, give me one word to describe the future of medical devices.
One word. Can
Only
I use a
one.
couple? Okay.
You might have to call somebody. I'm not sure.
Miniaturized.
Miniaturized.
How's that?
Wow. And I'll give you 30 more seconds to tell me why.
We are able to take these big clunky machines, and more medical device companies are making them smaller so they could either fit in a better in the tight space of an ambulance, which couldn't before, like a ultrasound machine. We were able to miniaturize it so EMTs can take a look at a patient's potential injury, whereas before we couldn't because we just didn't have the space. That allows for quicker and better patient treatment.
I think I've seen commercials about patches that connect to your Bluetooth, and they give all kinds of information.
Exactly. So
That's
on that idea, exactly.
Yeah. Give me one word in digital health.
Another one word.
One word. We're very parsimonious here.
I'd say outcomes.
Okay.
And to explain what I mean by that is that because of digital health and the ability to send data through the cloud to the provider can see much sooner and track better a patient, how they're doing at home, for instance. Whereas before, the only time they could track them is when a patient physically came. And we just can't make appointments, as quickly as a digital health will reveal to a provider, which could be minute to minute versus once every 2 months. So therefore, that tracking should enable better patient outcomes. And that's what I mean by outcomes.
Right. I mean, like scheduling physician appointments takes forever typically, right? So
Got it.
maybe this will facilitate a golden age of utility, right?
That's right. That's right.
What's the most exciting breakthrough in biotech right now?
Oh, goodness. In biotech, God, this is a hard one. I think it would be, again, immunotherapy and as well as the GLPs. Both have some side effects, but they have revolutionized some of the biggest chronic diseases that we've had to deal with. Immunotherapy is almost like the first or fourth leg of cancer treatment.
Wow. Okay.
It's always been surgery, radiation, and the drugs like chemo, but now immunotherapy is standing on its own as well. Big part of the arsenal. And I've forgotten what else I said. What was it?
It was immunotherapy.
Right. Oh, and the GLPs. GLPs have, so many folks who are obese or have diabetes. It touches and is able to mitigate or manage on so many levels. So it hits a much wider population.
And I think there's something called obesity-related oncology, right? Where something like 65 or 75% of cancer is somehow related to obesity, right? So,
There is more and more data
yeah.
suggesting that. So yes, keeping up a good lifestyle should abate some of that.
Yeah. Great. AI hype or AI reality, which is winning?
They're both winning. You really have to dig in and have a good technical expert on AI to differentiate the two. Some people just throw in the word AI, but really have nothing backing them. They're still using old-fashioned machine learning. Today, it better be about large language models, deep learning. That is the type of AI that should that has enough sophistication to be serious and real.
Wow. I had to ask the judges about that at some point in time, whether you're allowed to say both, but anyway. So what's keeping you up at night as a VC founder, as a general partner?
What's keeping me up at night? What's keeping me up at night are determining whether some of our portfolio companies are moving along as they should. And if one of them is happening to go sideways, which does happen, do they have enough of the right support to keep them going? We think of them as our babies. We worry about them. And so we want to make sure that the support that we're giving is going to work out for them. That's what keeps me up. I worry about the companies, but like a mother.
Fantastic. Wow. So if you weren't in healthcare, what would you be doing now? Professional pickleball player?
Oh my gosh. That's a tough one. I would try to be a better cook, better chef. I love to cook.
I love
So
to
I
eat.
love to, yeah. I always at the farmer's market, always trying to concoct something. So I try at home to come up with meals. I'd love to be a chef.
Fantastic. Great. We'll be watching out for you on one of those British chef TV shows.
Right.
I guess.
Maybe not.
Well, fantastic. It was a great job. And we're going to have more information about you posted at the end of this
Yes, please.
podcast.
Our
And
contact information.
then I'm sure we'll see you again. So thanks so much for making it.